want to earn more? Work less and enjoy what you do each day. It's no secret, it can be done. This podcast with Dr. T will not only educate and inspire you, it will also teach you how to do more and be more with the time you already have. It will be like a shot of adrenaline straight into the heart of your business. Here is your host, Tyson Franklin.
Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin and welcome to this week's episode of It's No Secret with Dr. T. As you may notice, I played the long introduction to today's podcast, and there is a reason for this, which I will explain later on in this episode. My guest today is Jeff Peterson, and he owns a company in Wisconsin called Geneva Supply. You may not know the name of his company, but you will know the name of some of the big companies he works with, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Jeff is a repeat offender. He has been on the show before. He was on with Bill Davis back on episode 17, and it was titled Drive Your Business. And Bill Davis was the vice president of Snap-on Tools. So if you get a chance, go back and check out episode 17. So Jeff, thank you for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, Tyson. Thanks for having me on your show again. I like that whole repeat offender side of life. If you're going to do it once, you might as well do it twice, right?
Well, I look at it this way. When I say repeat offender, it's the only time it's good to be a repeat offender.
Right. That's true. I'm good with that.
So your business, Geneva Supply, tell people what it is that you actually do. And this is what I think is exciting.
Yeah, so I'll try to keep it as brief as I can, but we do a lot of different things. So Geneva Supply has been around for about 10 and a half years, and we handle manufacturers to the e-commerce platforms. And when I say e-commerce platforms, everybody knows Amazon, and Amazon is the majority of our business, simply because if you take the top 20 e-commerce platforms that are out there and you add number 2 all the way through number 20 and you add them all together, they don't add up to what Amazon is. So obviously Amazon's the biggest player that we have that we do business with. And the reason why we exist, and I think every business needs to just figure out, why the hell do we exist? And the reason we exist is manufacturers have been challenged with the speed of the e-commerce platform, the nuances, the different aspects, the compliance regulations, everything that's kind of built into it. Because when manufacturers figure out their efficiencies, it's making a lot of product and shipping it in bulk on pallets. And the e-commerce platform really is kind of that one-off, one item to consumer. Maybe it's shipped direct to consumer, or maybe it's shipping to a bunch of different fulfillment centers across the country so that Amazon can have that product as close to the consumer's doorsteps as possible, because everything about Amazon is Prime, 2 days free freight to the customer. Yeah. And they've got to have that product close. So what we've done is we've created that bridge from the manufacturer to the e-commerce platform, because it's changing faster than any channel that's out there. So we handle content management, brand management, SEO optimization, digital marketing, third-party logistics. So we truly are a one-stop shop, everything under the Geneva Supply roof, so that if you are a product and you're an item that you want to have sold on the e-commerce platform, we're going to be able to talk you through your strategy, what your goals should be, what's realistic, the timetables, and really cut out some of the extra expenses of just making those mistakes. Because let's face it, we've been doing it 10 and a half years. So we already made pretty much all the mistakes you might ever want to know.
That's always good.
So we can really help a lot of different kind of companies out.
So what sort of companies would you work with as an example? So if I made drink bottles and I went, I make the best drink bottle. If you go running, this is the drink bottle you want. It's got a Velcro thing. It straps to your head. However it works, I make this. Do I need to make a particular number of them for it to be worthwhile for you? Or I may only have a certain amount made and I come to you and you go, now you need to go and make 10,000 more. How's that side of things work?
What it boils down to is every manufacturer that we potentially are going to do business with, we sit down at a table and I've got different team members that are going to be part of that initial meeting with the manufacturer. And we're going to find out what their goals are, what their capabilities are, what their pain points are. And we're going to figure out whether or not we're a fit for them as much as whether they're a fit for us. So we do have startup companies that are within our portfolio.
Yeah.
And we have companies that are doing $50 million. So we hit everything from the startup. And I love that startup world. because they do need a lot of strategy and assistance, and they've got their great ideas and their great product in their head. And we have to figure out and help them
in their head.
In their head. We have to help them figure out whether it's a fit on the e-commerce platform and whether or not there's so much clutter, what it's going to cost them to even get noticed on the platform, for them to even get sales, and whether or not, if it takes off, if they've got enough infrastructure to keep the traction going. So there's a lot of things that you've got to consider. And we do turn companies away that, you've seen Shark Tank.
It's not just about having a product. Like if I had this water bottle and it was fantastic, it's not just about me giving you 10,000 items or units, as they call it, give you 10,000 units, and then hey, go and sell these for me. I need to still do some marketing to let people know this unit is available and you can get it from Amazon.
Yeah, when we started 10 and a half years ago, it was much easier. The barrier to entry was much easier to get onto the platform and be found by customers.
Yeah.
But now there's so much variety of products, and honestly, there's so much mimicking going on of products that you've got to have something that differentiates yourself, and you've got to have, it's a pay to play world right now when it comes to social media, social marketing, on Amazon marketing, Google marketing. It's very difficult to just all of a sudden have that viral item that you have one video and all of a sudden everybody knows about it and everybody wants it.
Yeah,
and
it's like my podcast.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you do one episode
it's the way this one's going to go.
Yeah. So it's like doing one episode. Next thing, Oprah's talking about your podcast. It just does.
Oprah's favorite podcast.
Yeah, and she has mentioned it, but we'll keep that on the quiet. So when I might be watching, going through Instagram or on Facebook, and an ad will come up on there, and it will say, "Hey, you need to get Tyson's water bottle with these mixed martial arts pants," and you'll see this ad, and then when you click on that, it takes you through to somewhere. Well, say for example, it went through to Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon, you actually hold the stock for Amazon and you ship it from your particular warehouse. Is that how it works?
So that's part of what we do.
Yeah.
The other part is sometimes manufacturers have what I would call more of a direct relationship, and we manage the negotiations. We manage that partnership for the manufacturer, but Amazon places orders with us and we ship that product to 20 different fulfillment centers across the country, so that Amazon is buying it from us and inventorying that, and it says shipped from and sold by Amazon. Now, the other side of it is through that Seller Central platform. Sometimes it's fulfilled by Amazon, so it could be Tyson's Toys, and we send the product into an Amazon fulfillment center, and it's Tyson's Toys fulfilled by Amazon. That means you still get that Prime designation.
Yeah.
However, you own the inventory. Amazon didn't buy it from you. You're paying to have it stored in an Amazon fulfillment center and paying a percentage for them to pick, pack, and ship it to the consumer under the Prime designation. Now, there's also third-party sellers that just sell it as Tyson's Toys, and you ship it direct to the consumer, and you choose whether or not you're charging freight or you're adding kind of the freight, building it into your cost, and you're shipping it direct to the consumer. So Geneva Supply, we've set up, as we grew as a company, we made sure that we were set up to handle every aspect and every option that the Amazon platform offers, so that a manufacturer can come to us and make a strategic decision on how they want to be represented on Amazon. Because if you sell it to Amazon and Amazon owns that product and it's in their fulfillment center, that's where you start to see that pricing go up and down, and Amazon is in complete control of what they're going to sell your product for.
I've even seen that with my book. Yeah, even my book, 2 books that I've got on Amazon. It's No Secret There's Money in Podiatry, and It's No Secret There's Money in Small Business. If you haven't read the copy. Shameless plug. But I've even seen that. I've seen sometimes where, say, recommended retail price is $29.99 Australian or $29.95. But I've seen it as high as $38 on some platforms. And then next thing I've seen it at $19.
Yeah.
And you go, wow. And then a day or two later, it's back up to $29.95. So it jumps around all over the place.
And when Amazon is matching other e-commerce platforms, they'll match that. If they feel as though they've got too much inventory and they want to right size their inventory levels, they'll drop price. But if you send it to an Amazon fulfillment center under the Fulfilled by Amazon, where you own that inventory, you set the price points. So you can hold your price point and not have it fluctuate. And if you're selling direct and shipping direct to consumer, you can also control your price points. So it depends on what your strategy is as a manufacturer on whether or not you're okay with that fluctuating price, because consumers do want to buy from Amazon. So your sales are going to be 4 to 5 times as a multiplier versus if you go through FBA or sell direct to consumer, just because that confidence of the Amazon platform.
What I like about Amazon more than anything else is I buy a lot of books. I give books away as gifts a lot. But at the same time, while I'm buying some books, I go, oh, I'm looking for this at the moment. Might be a piece, not a microphone. I've got heaps of microphones. But it might be a piece of electronic equipment or something like that. I'm going, okay, I'm going to look at this on Amazon at the same time. Or actually, the last thing I bought was the season 1 of Cobra Kai. The continuation of the Karate Kid. Tell you, corny as hell, but so good. I'm
telling you, I love that shit.
Oh, it was so good.
About it.
So, but what it was, I saw that on. I saw it. Somebody else mentioned it. I went onto Amazon, saw it there. I put it in my trolley, but I left it there for about 3 months until I had found some other things that I wanted, then just did the order at the same time. But then I joined Amazon Prime, so I get the free shipping, and I also get Amazon Prime on TV. So I get the movies.
It's a deal.
It is a deal. And you get Amazon Music, which is rubbish, I think. That's just my opinion. That's one thing they need to work on.
Well, they actually make you upgrade if you want to get something that's closer to Spotify.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. So they have an upgraded version for their Amazon Music. But yes, I agree. Their entry level Amazon Music is pretty sparse.
Some of the tracks, it sounds like I've sung them. They're not the real artists. I'll go, I'll play this from the 80s, and I'm listening to it, and I go, were these songs that bad when I was that young? And I'm listening and go, actually, because they're not done by the actual original artists. They're done by Jeff Peterson and Tyson Franklin while drunk.
That's right. Hey, and that's something we might want to do. Maybe we should do a duet album out there of maybe 80s rock. Bring back some of the love ballads, back from the 80s. I think, Tyson, can you imagine
some of the powerful ones?
Talk about COVID-19 having this baby boom thing in 9 months. If people started listening to a duet from the 80s rock love ballads that we were singing, this world couldn't handle the population growth.
No, they'd want to stay in isolation longer.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, please don't let us out.
That's right.
So, getting back to your company, what's the weirdest product somebody has come to you with that was not a sex aid?
So we sold
that was also successful.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you right now. This is crazy. We had a product that we handled, and it was called Cat Dancer. And Cat Dancer was basically, if you want to picture like a stick that has a string hanging on the end with a little like ball thing with a feather, almost like a fishing pole where you would tease the cat. And it was called Cat Dancer. And you looked at that and you're like, what who's buying this? And what we sold, tens of thousands of these freaking things. It was insane. And it was like, I'm like, what? Like literally it was ridiculous, to the point where one day I was at a pet trade show, and I walk up to the Cat Dancer booth, and the guy had no idea we were the ones that were handling his product to Amazon. Yeah. Because we were buying it from a wholesale distributorship when we were helping Amazon increase their offerings in the pet department. And he's like, "You're the one." I'm like, "Yeah, say thank you." And he says, "Thank you. That's amazing." He said, "I never would have been able to get it up and loaded and figure it out. And you really gave me a lot of traction." And so we had a good laugh over it. And Cat Dancer is pretty unique.
Is it still a product you carry, or is that something
it's not? It's not. This is the funny thing. So because of all the traction that we built and the number of units we sold, he got called by Amazon, and Amazon said, "Hey, we're selling a bunch of your product. Do you want to do business with us direct?" So the guy's like, he had no idea we were part of it. He didn't know me or anything like this. He goes, "Yeah, I guess so." And so he started doing business direct with Amazon, just because it's kind of weird. When we started doing business with Amazon 10 and a half years ago, it was about a year outside of them just being a books company. The first 10 years of Amazon, it was Jeff Bezos creating this e-commerce platform just to sell books.
Yeah.
That was it. So when they started to decide they wanted to get into other types of products, we started a year outside of them doing that. The only departments that existed when we started with them was the tools and home improvement department. It was toys, and it was consumer electronics. That was it. So every six months to a year, the vendor managers, the buyers in a department would move to a different department. And at that time, they were moving to departments that were just starting from scratch. So because I had good relationships with all these vendor managers, I had a guy go from the home improvement department into pets. And I get an email, "Hey, Jeff, can you help me out? They're expecting me to get XYZ amount of selection and new items loaded on Amazon for the pets department. There's no way I'm going to be able to hit my number. Do you think you can help me out?" So I'd go to pet trade shows and I'd set up all these brands and load them up on the platform to help the vendor managers out that I was friends with and grow selection for them. And then that would obviously help us out as far as sales too. So we helped a lot of these departments that these divisions of Amazon start and get selection.
So ideally, you need a product that is successful, but not too successful. Because it becomes too successful, Amazon go, "We'll just deal directly with you." So it just reminds me of having your own business and you have another person coming and working for you, and you want someone who's a really good team player, who is a good producer, regardless of what industry you're in. But you don't want someone that's that much of a superstar that they're actually outshining the business itself, and they leave and go and set up an opposition.
I'll tell you, it's funny. I go back and forth. You'll find this unique about me. I don't call myself an entrepreneur. I'm not a big fan of people that walk around calling themselves entrepreneurs. Like I go to a networking event,
I know,
and they walk up and I say, "So what do you do?" "Oh, I'm an entrepreneur."
I go, "Oh, you're unemployed."
I'm just like, why don't you just tell me what you do?
Yeah.
Because that's about as vague as it gets. It's almost the safety net people are starting to use.
Oh, you know the one I used to like years ago, people used to come up. I'd be in my podiatry clinic and someone would write, and they'd always write down their occupation, and they'd write down director. And I go, "Oh." So they sit down and go, "Oh, you have director." I go, What movies have you done?"
Right, exactly.
Because they're making like company director. And I go, "Oh, what movies have you done?" I may have heard of some of them. And they go, "What are you talking about?" So, "Well, you've got here director." I assume it's movie director. And they've gone, No, like company director." "Oh, right. What company do you have? Because what you do may relate to the foot problem that you're having. I just need to know your actual occupation."
Right.
And they go, "Oh, yeah, like I'm a director of a family company." And I go, "Yeah, but what does that company do? When when money comes in and someone gave you that money, unless you're selling drugs, unless you're selling drugs or your bum, what are you? How did you get that money? What service do you provide?" And then they go, "Oh, we had a cleaning business." I go, "Right, okay, so you're on your feet all the time." "Yeah, that's what I needed to know." "Why didn't you just write down cleaning company?" Would have been so much easier, but it wasn't cool. And I think entrepreneur is exactly the same. When people go, "Oh, I'm an entrepreneur," it doesn't mean anything.
And I've gone round and round with a couple of professor buddies of mine that, there's colleges and universities are creating these degrees that are called entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Like you can graduate with an entrepreneurship degree. And I said to him, I'm like, what business wants to have a resume for an interview come across their desk and have it read that somebody majored in entrepreneurship? It screams, I'm not going to be here longer than a year or 2 years because my goal is to own my own company, but I need to pay my bills and I want a cooler apartment and a nicer car. So I'm going to use you for a couple of years until I've got enough money so that I can actually start my own business. Like, why would you want to have that on?
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't make sense to me. Having entrepreneurship as part of a business course and part of the process and learning how to create a business plan and the creative aspect of it, the financial aspect of it, all of those things, that's great. But as far as calling the degree that, and sometimes I think universities are trying to attract, it's so competitive to get students that they're trying to use some of these buzzword, type of degrees to attract students to go to their university, because everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. I mean, the Shark Tank world is real. Well, and I even brought up the point where I'm a big fan of entrepreneurship. And when I go out and I speak at conferences and everything, I talk about the importance of entrepreneurship, and that is having that creative entrepreneurial spirit within an organization.
Yeah.
And so you're entrepreneurial and you are taking your division, your department, your role at the company and being creative as if it's your own, and you're taking ownership of your aspect of what your job is as if it is your own company. And that is that entrepreneurship aspect that I think is more important to teach, because if they do that, anybody can be an entrepreneur on their own, like off hours or during the day. Nobody controls your mind and what you're thinking and your creativity and coming up with a business idea. Nobody creates that. It's in a person. You're not going to teach that in college.
Yeah.
The person is going to either be that person or not. And a business degree is what they truly need, because it's going to go over all of those details. And if they need to raise money, they're going to be able to figure out how to raise money. They don't need to have a college degree to tell them how. You're going to go ask some people.
I think the word entrepreneur has just come about. Yeah, there's people who, well, at the moment while we're recording this, we're going through the whole COVID-19 pandemic. The world has come to a bit of a standstill. And I said this to somebody on a podcast the other day. I can't remember if I was on theirs or if they were on my podcast. But I said, at the moment, I'm looking at this whole pandemic thing. It's almost like the cyclone or hurricane we had to have. And where I live in Cairns in the tropics, we usually get about 2 or 3 cyclones sort of hovering around. And then about every 5 years, we'll get a doozy that comes through and just sort of doesn't really hit Cairns. It always, just the way Cairns is designed, it either goes slightly north or slightly south. But usually whenever a cyclone or hurricane hits a town, it cleans up and gets rid of all the crap. Houses that were built on dodgy foundations, things that just shouldn't be there anymore, maybe should have been pulled down, it goes through it and it cleans everything out. And the really strong houses, the places that were built with really good foundations the right way, they all survive. And then later on, the town flourishes. And I'm looking at the whole entrepreneurial world and the business world, that there's so many people there that calling themselves entrepreneurs that are working from home, really don't have that many clients. They're pretending they're bigger than what they are. And I think this whole pandemic coming through is going to be like a cyclone. It's going to wipe them all out and make some of them realize, well, I didn't really have a business.
Right.
Me sitting at home or in my parents' garage or basement does not really qualify as a real business. Now, if there's somebody listening to this and that's you and I've upset you, tough.
Well, I think, I say this all the time too. It's, when you've got a business idea or a thought, people need to start being honest with themselves and self-assessing on whether or not they've got something that's real, and they've got to go and they've got to reach out to people that aren't family and friends. You see American Idol, and I say this all the time, and these people that are on there singing, if you want to call it that, somebody told them that they could sing, and somebody told them that they should go try out for American Idol. And that's a problem. If you're just reaching out to people that are going to give you positive feedback, you are going to constantly be misled. The magic is when you go and you talk to somebody that you've never met before, and you throw an idea past them, and they start questioning you, and they start giving ideas, and you start tweaking your ideas. That's where you start to develop something that has a chance of success. It's not just saying, hey, try this widget. Isn't it awesome? And your brother's like, yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, you should sell your house and put everything into that.
Right.
And what I was saying before, it's not that you cannot run a business from your parents' basement, but it's
for sure you can.
It's build some just really, Bill Gates seemed to do it. I think it worked out well for him. Yeah. Starting in a garage, but it's just start with some good, strong foundations and then keep building on it and keep building on it. And then when you talk to people, like you said, tell them what you actually do. Don't just use a term.
Right.
And get a freaking business card, you dumb shits.
It's true. There's a lot of basic.
I was at a podcast conference, and I mentioned this actually on a podcast. Well, no, I showed a video, I think. It was on a video. And I went to this conference, and then I'll be talking to someone. I go, have you got a business card? They go, oh, no, that's a bit old school, considering I'm older. And I went, they said, here, I'll just give you my details. And I went, okay, fine, give me your details. So I put the details on my phone. When I got back home, the only people that I did some form of business with or reconnected with were the ones who gave me their business card that I put in my pocket, got back to my motel room, put them in a pile, and then when I got home, I made sure I went through all those business cards. Now, the guys that, I'll just give you my details, there were so many that were like that, I couldn't remember who they were.
Right.
And unless they really stood out, in fact, none of them stood out. And I'm thinking, how hard is it? Get a business card, guys. Let me scribble some details on the back of the card and hand it to me. To me, to say a business card is outdated it's just crazy.
When you're living in a world that is, many generations that are still in the working community, you can't go hardcore just one way or the other when it comes to networking. You have to understand that there's different people at different stages in the way that they like to do business. And if you're not in a position to adapt and understand that there's value in all generations, and there's value in that 20-year-old that is wide-eyed and energized and is just self-driven to try to figure out how to do something on their own, as much as there is to the 57-year-old that has so much work experience and a variety of experiences that they've gone through, that there's such a need for both. But you've got, when you're going out there and you're conducting business and representing yourself, you don't want to just like pick a generation that you're going to be focused on, because the person that's 57 might have a phenomenal contact of somebody that is in the generation that you're focused on, and you basically lost that opportunity. When I get business cards from people, the biggest thing that I do, I'll grab them, and as I'm talking to them and asking them questions, or they're asking me questions back and forth, I will literally, the ones that I don't want to forget, I always fold the corner on the business card.
Oh, okay.
So when I go back to my room and there's a folded corner on a business card, I focus hard on that business card because I saw an opportunity, and that'll trigger my memory onto that conversation just by folding the corner. It's just something I've done for my entire life. It's so weird. Yeah,
that is a really, really good hack. And talking about the different generations, have you seen that movie with Robert Deniro, The Intern?
Yes.
Like, to me, that sums up exactly what you were talking about, where he was this older guy, and I think he's like 70 or something in the movie, or late 60s, and all of a sudden he gets this internship with a tech company, or are they a magazine or something? I can't remember exactly what they do. But he's turning up with this briefcase, and just so old school, and they were treating him like shit all the way through the beginning part, until all of a sudden they realized, hang on, this guy's got experience that we don't have. Right. He's seen things that we haven't seen. But then at the same time, he was looking at them as being little shits. He was realizing, wow, they've got energy and enthusiasm, and they can see into the future, which he wasn't looking at. Great combination when you bring the two minds together.
Yeah, it really is. I mean,
this is a good. Oh no, you finish what you're going to say.
No, I was basically just going to say, because at Geneva Supply, we have an amazing range. I mean, I might be one of the oldest, people at Geneva Supply at 52, and we've got 22, 23, 27, 31. We have those generations, and when we sit in meetings, we let everybody have their voice, and we don't let them because it's politically correct. And, we have an HR department and everybody, just let everybody talk. No, we actually want to hear everybody's opinions, because that's where that bounce back and and bouncing things off of each other and the excitement of where you're going to go as a company. We are going the direction we are as a company, not because of some 52-year-old guy that, had an idea and this is the way I wanted to go. My business partner is 10 years younger than me, because of the understanding that there's different skill sets and mindsets and ideas in a 10-year gap that are going to benefit a company from both sides.
No, and what I was going to say, this is the perfect segue into BIZTANK and Kids in the Tank. So you've created a non-profit group that sort of brings industry and school kids together in your area of Wisconsin. So I'll let you explain a little bit more what BIZTANK and Kids in the Tank is the podcast, which is a breakaway of BIZTANK. So I'll let you explain what BIZTANK is.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for bringing it up, because it is a passion of mine, and to the point where everybody kind of wishes like a passion could become what they do for a living. It would be super cool if I was a millionaire and could actually do something like this for my full-time career, because it's that cool and passionate for me. So BIZTANK is all about career exploration, and it all started because back in 2016, Geneva Supply was recognized by Entrepreneur Magazine as being ranked number 29 out of 360 up-and-coming companies within the country. And so we got what I called street cred, and because nobody knew who the hell Geneva Supply was back then. And so we actually got asked to go in and talk to the high school business class and talk about our journey, talk about how we created our company and what it took to do it, and the whole ins and outs of it. And when we walked in to talk to these kids, we expected them to really just be glad that the teacher wasn't standing in front of the room, that whole substitute teacher role, where the kids can just screw around and not really have to focus. And that's kind of what we were expecting. But we started telling our journey, and all of a sudden kids were raising their hands left and right. And we're being asked questions that were like completely about what we were talking about. Really, really good questions. And it was a blast talking to these kids. So afterwards, it just kind of hit me. And what hit me is the high school curriculum, although important, it is what it is. It is the baseline of learning, the baseline of what is generalized experience and exposure to different coursework. And it's important. However, it is not connecting kids to reality. It's not connecting kids to the career paths that they're going to be responsible for choosing very, very soon. Because one of the questions that drives me crazy to this day, and it's been asked for decades and decades and decades, longer than that, forever. What are you going to be when you grow up? We're asking juniors and seniors in high school, what are you going to be when you grow up? Well, how the hell are they supposed to know? Because we as society are not connecting them with actual people in the careers to talk about what they do for a job. We're not talking about when they turn 16, they're driving around in their car past all these companies and they have no idea what those companies do. And we're not we're not sharing what that is, but yet we're expecting them to go into debt, go to college, and pick a major in something that they really aren't even sure what it really entails at the end for a career, or even what it pays in most cases.
So in Australia, though, we do a lot of work experience with schools. We'll send the kids out for 2 weeks in different careers, and they spend time there. Do they do the same thing in the States?
There's a variety of programs that are attempting to try to do that.
Yeah.
But what it boils down to is the business society, the workforce society. It seems to be the same companies all the time that participate in it.
Yeah, probably the same thing here.
It's very much like the volunteer parents. It's always the same parents that are making the cupcakes and bringing the juice box and like helping set the chairs up for the choir, concert and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I suppose it's the same thing though. They're really then only doing work experience in an area that they think they're already interested in. Whereas what you're doing is you're exposing them to other industries and other professions that they're sitting back going, shit, never thought about even doing it. They were going to be a doctor or go down the whole science path, and next thing they're talking to someone who's a project manager. And
Right.
they go, well, I'd never even thought about that as a career. That sounds so interesting. So you're opening their mind up to different things.
Yeah, one of our biz kids was going to go to college, and a specific college for physical therapy.
Yeah.
He wanted to be a physical therapist. And going through BIZTANK, when he finished up, he switched universities that he was going to go to, and he switched into business. Now, our goal is not to switch a kid into business. It's called BIZTANK, but that's just because that's the name.
Yeah.
You know, that's just like Nike started as shoes, and now they've got golf shirts and they've got hoodies. And
Have I convinced any of them yet to become podiatrists? have I put them off?
I don't know. You don't know. I don't know for sure. We don't have any graduates
but I must admit,
that have started their careers.
I must admit, so I was going to be an art teacher. And then I went from going to become an art teacher until talking to my brother who was doing dentistry and then some other people, switching to podiatry. As I got to the end of podiatry, we did one business subject where we had to put together this business plan. I enjoyed it that much. I got 100% for the subject. And the guys from the business school came up to me and said, have you ever thought about you're in the wrong career? You should maybe do a business degree. Now, I'd never been exposed to business in any way until then. So if I was in high school and we had a subject called business principles, which was like bookkeeping. So it didn't look very exciting to me. But if we had somebody come into the school and said, hey, this is what a business degree can offer you, I probably would have done that and not done podiatry.
Well, and maybe it's a good thing that didn't happen because you became very, very, well-to-do with going through what you've done and your experiences. But I think the key is to empower kids and have them realize this decision is their decision.
Yeah.
It's not what your parents want you to do. It's not what your teacher suggests you do. It's not what the guidance counselor that barely knows you, says that, oh, you tested this way. You answered these questions that way. You should do this. You should look into this career path. Kids should feel that they have the responsibility to make that decision on their own. And it's okay if they don't make it right away.
Yeah. And it's okay to change your mind. If you want to change your mind.
Fine.
And I think sometimes when I've spoken to younger people, and this is what I love what you're doing with BIZTANK, but when I've spoken to some kids and when they were 12, they would tell me, this is what I want to do.
Yep.
And a certain amount of them, they get to a certain point where they've said it that often, they actually start to believe it, that that's what they want to do. Right. But they don't realize the parents are in the background going, you will be a doctor. You will be a doctor. I'm sure they do that while they're sleeping at night.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, maybe they don't want to be a doctor, but they feel like I've been saying for so long now, I can't pivot and change, but it's okay to change.
And I think what the kids are learning, and one of the things that they come back and constantly say is when they do go off to college, the residual effect of what BIZTANK will be is when they decide what, they pick their major or they decide not to even go to college. But if they go to college, let's use that as the example, they pick a major and then all of a sudden they're going into their sophomore year and they're like, you know what? I don't actually want to major in this. I don't like the coursework. They can look back at the speakers that we had in BIZTANK that shared their journey, that there were people that majored in finance, that ended up in sales, that ended up in different careers. And they can look back and say, wait a second, this speaker did it this way. It's okay to change your mind, because so much of what we don't share with the kids is examples of people that have ended up successful, the journey it took to get there. People say it's not a straight line. It's not. It's true. But you can sit there and say that to a kid over and over and over again, and they're not going to really connect with it, but they can connect with people and their journeys when they're shared, when they're asking them questions, and they're able to send a LinkedIn message and network and all those other things, and have those speakers as mentors that they can reach out to later on when things pop up, when they need those questions answered. And that's what part of BIZTANK is all about. It's unbelievably rewarding for me to even just see how these kids change through the program. And it's not that we're doing anything other than giving them exposure to these amazing people that are willing to share their journey. It's very cool.
Well, I've had about eight students from BIZTANK that have obviously finished and gone off to university. I've had about 8 of them connect with me on LinkedIn so far. And usually they always send me a message and they go, "Oh, we heard you talking here," or "We'd seen a recording," or "We listened to your podcast," and they've reached out and connected. And I think that's great. And I've messaged them all back and said, "Hey, if you need any help with anything, if you've got any business questions, just ask away." And a few have asked the odd thing.
I have biz kids that literally still talk about you because of how real you are and how authentic you are. And I think that's the other thing is I think people that have gone and had these experiences, and when they're sharing it with kids, don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
Be real about it. These kids deserve that. They don't need false hope. They need the reality so that they can create their own hope. And I think that that's important. And so I've got, there's one of my interns that manages the BIZTANK program on an internship level, Hunter. She absolutely thinks you're amazing. She talks about you all the time. And she's like, "I just love him." And it's impactful. Yeah. All these kids have a speaker or 2 or 3 or 7 that they really remember and connected to. And it might have nothing to do with what they end up doing for a career, but it might have something to do with how they become as a person. And that's just as important.
But I think we used to do that ourselves when we were younger. You would have your own mentor. It might have been back then we were somebody's book or cassette tapes that you listened to, because you didn't have the internet. You couldn't just watch a video of them really quickly. And I sort of had that sort of like Zig Ziglar was my favorite. He just seemed so down to earth, and he's from Yazoo, Mississippi, and just cracked jokes and took the piss out of himself as much as just passing on all his advice. And I listened to his stuff, pretty much earliest stuff I could find, all the way through his whole career, right? Without him even knowing that he was like one of my main mentors. So what's great now is you can hear that, wow, you've had an effect on a younger person who's actually listening to what you say. Also makes you realize too, just be careful what you say sometimes, because people are listening and watching.
It's true. But still be who you are.
Yeah. I'll always be me.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's one of the things, I don't have much of a filter. And, anybody that knows me, even the kids will tell you, I don't have that much of a filter, but they all know how much I care about them and helping and connecting them and what's all behind it. And I'll tell you what, it's the people that are very real, no matter how they come across being real, that people connect to.
Yeah. I've had some friends, some close friends here in Cairns, and I'll be talking to their kids about certain things. And then as I'm talking, you hear one of the parents yell out, "Tyson, filter." And I go, "That was filtered." And they go, "My God, I'm glad we remind you all the time before you start talking to our kids to filter it just slightly anyway." So now the other reason I wanted to get you back on here is you like I've known you through this whole It's No Secret with Dr. T journey, this whole career. Yep. And we actually connected before I started doing the podcast, back when I was doing my walking challenge and listening to podcasts. So that's how we sort of met in the first place. Now, unbeknownst to most people who are listening to this particular podcast, this is officially the last episode. I'm bringing the podcast to an end, and I thought it was great to get you on because you'd been on the show before, and I had met you before the podcast even started through podcasting. So I love it.
I am honored to be your last podcast. I'm saddened that it is your last podcast. Now, let's face it, you're not stopping podcasting.
No,
it's just this show. I'm extremely excited for what you're doing with the Podiatry Legends podcast and everything that's working with that and putting your efforts and getting focused on that success. And it's fun. I've enjoyed listening to your podcasts, watching your social media, and honestly, I consider you a friend, and we've never met personally.
No, but we will at some stage. We were going to meet this year, except I don't think I can leave the country, and if I do leave the country, they won't let me back. So So yeah, maybe in 2021.
Are you sure that's because of COVID or just because they don't want you back?
Yeah, it could be 2021. But what I want to point out to people is, like I've really, really enjoyed doing the podcast. I've loved every guest I've had on here has been fantastic. I've learned something from every single person. But at some point, it's okay to say, I need to change. And I think some people they'll be doing a career for a certain period of time and they want to do something else. Then do it. Yeah, I think I've taken It's No Secret with Dr. T to a certain point where I could keep going with it, but all of a sudden it's time to put it to bed, tuck it in, and I think this will be episode 211. So that's not a bad effort.
No, that's a hell of an effort. Hell of a go there.
But I really think anyone listening to this, if you're doing something right now and you're thinking, I don't want to do this anymore, it's okay to say enough is enough.
It is.
But there's no negatives about doing this podcast. And like you mentioned, I've still got the other podcast, the Podiatry Legends podcast. So that's keeping me busy. And I've got other things that I need to do. But It's No Secret with Dr. T. It's time for it to come to an end.
Sometimes you just stop doing something because you need to make room for something else.
That's basically it. There's other things I wanted to do. And I'm thinking I could bring them in. And I'm going, okay, that's another thing I'm just adding to my plate. Got this visualization of a big plate at the moment with all this food on there, and I'm trying to stick on extra potatoes. Something has to give. So, and I hope someone listens to this and they can actually take something away from that.
Totally agree with that. One thing that I want to do.
Yeah.
We're both bourbon drinkers.
Yes.
Right. So, and we just found this out, because you were telling me last week that you were having yourself a little glass, what specifically? Because I don't want to butcher it because there's.
Oh no, it was the 15-year-old Pappy Van Winkle.
It was the 15-year-old, right? And I don't have a 15-year-old Pappy, but I've got a bottle here of bourbon, and I'm just, a toast to you, a cheers, and I'm gonna slug this right out of the bottle for you, just because. Okay. I'm gonna finish this.
Yeah, well, it's 9:30 in the morning here, so I won't be having a bourbon right now. But you do it for me. Have two.
I'm gonna give a slug right here, just so you can see it.
Oh yeah,
delicious. Cheers to you, my friend.
What bourbon are you drinking there?
So this is the Eagle Rare.
Oh, okay.
This is an Eagle Rare bourbon. It is it's a fair price. It's a higher end bourbon, but it's not Pappy.
Yeah.
It's not Pappy. It's not. Maybe it's like 45. Maybe it's like $45 or something like that. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. That was really smooth, and I took a big swig.
You did.
That was tasty. I might go back for another swig when this is over.
So before we wrap up, have you got any final advice, any final words of wisdom? Being the last guest on the show, and anyone that's listening to this, and this is the last time they're gonna hear It's No Secret with Dr. T, what's your final parting words?
So there's two things that I think are important, and what I've learned from our friendship and the way that we've grown it into, an opportunity to get to know each other. And I think one of the most important things is don't shy away from getting to know people that you enjoy being with, talking to, because so many of us focus so much on where is somebody that I talk to going to get me?
Yeah.
How are they going to benefit me? And I've never once looked at our friendship and our back and forth banter on social media and being a guest on your podcast. Never once did I ever think about what is this going to do for me? I don't care if 4 people listen to this podcast. I'm doing it because I'm enjoying literally just shooting the shit with you again.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think so many people start to focus so much on what's in it for themselves, where if everybody just takes a little bit of time to go out and get to know people, just to get to know people and kind of nurture friendships in an old school business card kind of way. I think some of that gets lost. There's a lot of quick hits. You see LinkedIn everybody, if I like your post, will you like my post? And what's that garbage?
Yeah.
Just get to know somebody. And if you like what they put out there, then like it. And if you don't like what they put out there, don't like it. This isn't a world of just pat each other on the back to help elevate people. Get to know people, because you're going to be elevated just by getting that experience and understanding of just relationships and friendships and partnerships.
They are wise words and a fitting way to finish. And it's like the quote I have on the wall behind me in my office. And it says, the next connection you make could be the one that changes your life. And that was always my goal when I was doing the 365-hour mental and physical challenge. What I got out of that more than anything else was the connections that I made. Doing the podcast, it's all been about the connections that I've made and the relationships I've built and friendships that I've built, that I know that, I know I could turn up at Wisconsin with very little warning and you go, hey, Jeff, I'm in town. And just like that,
drop everything.
Just like that, we would catch up. And to me, that's the benefits I feel by maintaining and building these relationships. Yeah, same thing. I never even thought about, what am I going to get out of this by getting to know Jeff? Other than sore ribs from laughing occasionally.
That's right. We've had our laughs, that's for sure.
So, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. Thank you for supporting It's No Secret with Dr. T over the last 2.5 years. It's been great. So thank you very much for coming on and being my final guest.
I appreciate it, my friend. I appreciate that more than you know. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks. Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to Jeff Peterson today from Geneva Supplies. He's a great guy. Him and I do have a lot of laughs together, even though we have not met, but we will meet at some stage in the future. And if you get the chance, go over and check out BIZTANK. The URL is biztanknonprofit.org. And from there, you can find out about Kids in the Tank podcast and other stuff that they're doing. They have a speaker series. It's a great page to go to, great information, and I think everybody should go and check it out when you get the chance. So just a couple more things before I finish up, this being the last show. I just want to thank every guest that's ever been on here. Like I said, I've learned something from every single person that has been on. And also want to thank everybody that has listened to, whether it's been one episode, this is your first one, or you've been listening all the way through. I've tried to bring some bit of entertainment, bit of knowledge every week. The guests on the show have varied so much, from UFC fighters through to musicians and magicians. It's been a treat actually putting it together every week. But normally I'll say to people, hey, if you get the chance to leave us a review, no need to leave any reviews anymore for this particular podcast. But having said that, if there's podcasts that you really enjoy listening to, please, I encourage you to leave a review for that podcast, because majority of podcasters do not make money from doing a podcast. They do it because they enjoy doing it. They enjoy connecting with people. And whether you do a review or you just reach out to them if they provide their email address and just let them know that you're listening and what it is that you like about the show and the type of guests that you really enjoy, that really helps shape the show over a period of time. But if you leave a review, that also builds social proof for that show. And that sometimes for the host can be very, very encouraging. So please, if you get the chance, leave reviews, send emails to your favorite podcast, to your favorite podcast hosts. If you want to send me a final message, that's great. Just send it to tf@tysonfranklin.com. Otherwise, I'm signing out for the last time for It's No Secret with Dr. T. You will find me over on the Podiatry Legends podcast. If you want to go over there, you do not need to be a podiatrist to listen to that show. There's some great, very, very smart, wise people on that podcast as well. So, for the final time, look after yourself, look after your family, and I won't be talking to you next week, but stay safe. Bye for now.
My name is Eric Hunley, and I host Unstructured. On Unstructured, I have intimate conversation with a diverse range of people. I've interviewed a presidential candidate and a felon, not the same person. I've even chatted with a musher. Yep, a sledder behind a pack of dogs. And in these conversations, we learn what drives these folks. Please, come check out Unstructured. You can find Unstructured wherever you listen to podcasts.
I did not grow up with very much money.
Money's energy.
Money is something that really scares me. You had about 60 grand in debt.
Money isn't the answer.
Somebody should just give me a lot of money.
My dream was to be the WWE wrestler, but you realize that your dreams change over the years.
Money is a tool. It's a key to a gate. And at the other side of the gate is the things that you really want to do with your life. It's the things that matter most to you. It's pursuing those values that make you ultimately happy.
Listen to Inspired Money at inspiredmoney.fm.